ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Double Take on this beautiful snowy Friday morning with the Safey brothers. I'm Alex Safey, here with my brother Johnny Rackets, not Jonathan. Johnny boy, what is happening?
You know, here we are. We tried getting this episode on Monday, but Alex was a little bit busy. So here we are, a little bit
Hey, we
late.
tried it on Wednesday and you were busy, alright?
Okay.
Throw me under the bus.
All right, so here we are. We got our all-star lineups coming at you guys today. We're going to start off. The starters have already been picked. We're going to talk about which starters did we not have that ended up being starters. We're also going to talk about who our reserves are, who our injury replacement will be for Anthony Davis, and we'll give our full all-star rosters. But first, Alex, your team, your Eastern Conference champion prediction right now has not been doing
Which team is that? Now, which team is that?
The Milwaukee Bucks. They have dropped 5 games in a row. Okay, 5 in a row. That's one of the worst losing streaks currently in the league. Another team with a 5-game losing streak right now. The Sacramento Kings. The Houston Rockets have lost 7 in a row, and the Cavaliers.
Ooh, the Rockets fell apart. I didn't even see any.
Yeah, well, they have had injuries though.
Yeah.
And
Injuries,
the Cleveland,
huh? That's what you want to say?
Yeah, and the Cleveland Cavaliers have lost 8 in a row. Okay, so that's who the Bucks are
right.
on pace with right now. So
Listen.
you tell me, Alex. Explain yourself.
I'll explain myself.
What's good with the Bucks?
First of all, no one wants to peak this early in the season, all right? We're barely even at the halfway mark. We're not at the halfway mark, okay? And you want to talk about injuries? Guess who's been out of the lineup, who's been locking down on the Bucks? Jrue Holiday hasn't played a game since February 6th, okay?
It shows how valuable he is, right?
It does. And I mean,
missed what? That's
we
like a
know
week and a
this.
half, 2
To me, I mean, watching a little bit. I didn't watch the whole Raptors game. I watched a bit of it in the first half when they were just. There was already a 20.
They got skunked.
They got skunked. They're already down
skunked by
20
the Raptors.
points. But what I saw was what we saw versus Miami, what we saw the year before versus Toronto.
Yeah,
the
I would say
guys
the same
they
thing.
wall up. You don't know what to be honest. They don't know what to do. Bud never changes the offense, and when you don't have that guard who can break the defense down. That guard who can take some of that defensive pressure off of Giannis. And honestly, like I said, I didn't watch too much. I wasn't paying too much to Chris Middleton, or I can't really speak on his performance last night. But I think Jrue Holiday out of the lineup is a big deal because the main thing with the Bucks since he's been out is how terrible their defense has been. The Raptors put up 110, which that's not absurd in the NBA today, but the Bucks got outscored by 16 or 14. So their defense has suffered without him. Their offense has definitely suffered without him. And I still think that at the end of the day, we get to the playoffs. I mean, at this point, I did not anticipate Philadelphia being this good. So I think it comes down to those two teams probably because I do, and maybe as we know, I'm kind of not that high in the Nets. So you know, we'll see what they can do if they can get their defense together. But I'm fine with the Bucks pick.
Yeah, you're right.
I'll still favor Giannis. We're still early.
It's early. They're 29 games into this season. They're gonna make a run back.
But I am disappointed.
But this is the point. This is the problem with that trade. They put all their chips on this one guy being there because guess what? When he's not there, they're the same old team that's gonna get nearly swept by the Heat and swept 4-0 after they took a 2-0 lead against the Raptors 2 years ago.
Is that a sweep?
So that's
They
got swept basically. they almost lost 4 games in a row twice in the playoffs. Okay, I think Coach Bud has one of the records as a coach to get the most 4-game straight losses in the playoffs. So I'm just saying here, they're the same old team. That was the problem that I had with that trade. I know you were a little bit more on top of that trade because you like getting Jrue Holiday.
Well, I liked Holiday.
They couldn't get Chris Paul, so they got Holiday.
I was more bummed when
they
couldn't figure out the Bogdanovich thing because I think you got Holiday and Bogdanovich. That was all right.
True.
That's a big deal.
That's what I'm saying. They went all in on this one guy, and guess what? If he misses a game or he misses a couple of weeks, you just lost 5 games straight. And you got skunked by the Raptors, who doesn't have the same personnel they did with Gasol, Ibaka, Kawhi, who were the ones walling up 2 years ago in that playoff series. Now they got Chris Boucher and Siakam. Same old system, same coach. Nick Nurse knows
still
what to do.
Respect the system.
And the system still works. So that's my point with the whole Giannis thing is, they want him to try and develop the jump shot so they don't have to, have games like this. But we watched last night a Raptors team that I didn't think is all too good. But guess what? The 3 versus the 6 matchup right now in the Eastern Conference would be Bucks versus the Raptors. So I am rooting for that. Shout out Eli Maluhi, who has been on our show a few times. He's high on the Raptors. But I would like to see that playoff series because I think the Raptors would just give the Bucks a run for their money with their coaching and the system and the defense that they know they can play against Giannis.
Nah, I actually would like to see that series too because I think Bucks got that on lock. Anyway, John, enough of that. Let's throw out the Lakers-Nets game from last night because Durant didn't play, Davis didn't play, whatever. It's irrelevant. And let's get to our NBA All-Star starting lineups. So the lineup, John, that let's start with the Eastern Conference that the fans voted on. I think actually no, everyone gets no. It's just the fan vote, right?
So
no. How
the
does it work?
starters is 50% accounts for what the fans voted for, and then 50% is coaches as well.
And so like the players or the media
So
don't
the
get
point,
any.
the
I thought
point
the players,
there
the
is
media
that
actually had votes
one
too.
year, like it wasn't. I can't remember if it was Boban. Boban was like almost a starter one year.
As
Or
far
no,
as the fans,
it was Zaza.
Zaza, the
Zaza was so close to being a starter one year, and that scared everyone. They're like, okay, we're like a season away from having a guy like Zaza Pachulia
Or
be
Alex
an
Caruso.
all-star starter, or like a guy like Alex Caruso, like a meme guy. Fans love him, but definitely not an all-star. So they're like, we have to take the power out of the fans' hands. So what they did was allowed for the coaches to compensate. So if there's a guy that maybe shouldn't be in there because he's, just like, let's say back in the day when Kobe Bryant, like he was in his last season, he wasn't an all-star
They
starter,
voted him in.
but they voted him as a starter. Okay,
I think he still started.
no, he did start.
Yeah.
He did. But my point there is like, was he really legitimately
Oh,
a
no,
starter?
absolutely
No,
not.
he wasn't like one of the best two guards in the West that year.
Well,
so.
yeah, and then I remember one year the players, some bums were getting votes.
Yeah.
Like, I couldn't tell you who it was, but it'd be like the equivalent of
Like Hassan, no, actually not Hassan Fuse, but like
not even Joe Ingles.
I'm saying like this year, like if Hassan Whiteside
exactly.
votes, yeah. It's
Anyway,
ridiculous.
so the Eastern starters were Kyrie Irving and Bradley Beal at the starting guard spots, and then the front court was pretty sad. I think everyone agreed on that. It was Kevin Durant, Giannis Antetokounmpo,
Easy.
and Joel Embiid. So John, right there with that lineup, where did you disagree?
So the disagreement I had, and this is the thing about everyone coming up with their own all-star lineups, is like everyone has their own way to decide. For me, it's partially like, yes, rewarding the guys who have been like the 12 best guys in that conference, but it also is about making the right team, the right starting lineup that fits well together, as well as like I'm throwing the stars in there. So if there's a guy that's a star, okay, and like maybe he hasn't had the best year like so far, or like he hasn't been performing like at the highest level that he can, but we still know he's that dude, like he gets the nod in my opinion. So
and who's that?
I guess that's kind of I'm saying that's kind of what Kyrie got to me.
Yeah.
In my opinion, it should have been Harden. Like Harden's an MVP.
so you,
guy.
so
We
you
know
had
that.
Harden in your lineup.
I had
along
Harden and Beal in the backcourt.
and then the same front court as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Kyrie, I guess I'm trying to like think about it. I guess the fan vote, he had a lot. He had a lot because everyone's wearing his shoes, everyone's wearing his Nikes. Maybe less so than the kids who are playing, middle schoolers who are playing basketball now are wearing Harden shoes, and maybe he's just more popular. He got more of the fan votes, and clearly got enough of the coaches vote where Harden wasn't going to jump him there. But in my opinion, Harden has been a more important player there, and we could talk a little bit about that because we look at that team and coming in, we have that episode out where we went back and forth on this, and you gave me the whole, there's only one ball, there's only one ball. And yes, Kyrie Irving and Harden, there's only one ball, I get that. But I figured Harden wanted to get traded to a team where he can compete for a title. I knew that he was going to be able to make the sacrifice because if he still thought he was going to be averaging 36 with Kyrie and KD on his team, then clearly everyone else knows more about basketball than he does. But we know that that's not true because he is a great player. He's a great scorer.
And he's an
And
incredible
he knew-
passer. He's the best passer on that team. I think he's probably the most
And he
valuable
knew-
guy on that team.
He knew he was gonna have to make sacrifices, so that's why you're right, Alex. And here he is. He has made sacrifices, and for that I think he's the starter over Kyrie. But it's fine. He'll make the roster regardless, and Kyrie will start.
I see why you did that, and I definitely wasn't shocked that Kyrie got the ultimate start. But I was in between. I had the same other four guys. I think Durant was 100% going in. Joel Embiid, top of the MVP race, and then Giannis. You have to give credit to Giannis just because he's probably still the best player.
And Beal averaging 33
And then
points.
and then Beal 33, even though he's on an absolute trash team. Who actually they just won 3 straight games, I think. So
Yeah,
we'll see. We'll see what happens with that. That'd be cool if they made a run for the playoffs. But my fifth guy was the other guards, but I was in between Kyrie, Harden, and Jaylen Brown.
Okay, explain this to me. Like, I'm sorry, but I'll just say right now, there's no way Jaylen Brown was going to get a starting spot over Harden.
I mean, I
or
voted for him,
Kyrie.
and I think other people did too. I'm pretty sure.
I don't get what it like. He's been excellent, and I made the whole argument like they're fun to use in 2K.
I guess that makes sense. He's
Yeah, they're
a
fun to use.
Celtics fan.
No, I've seen like on the Ringer they had him. Like some people on ESPN were having him, and he's been great. And he's averaging about a point more than Tatum.
Well, let me give you the argument. Okay.
Yeah, okay,
well,
give me the argument.
Well, he's having a way better season than Tatum, I think. I think it's
shooting
been flat
splits,
out.
yeah,
He's been shooting
more
in these
efficient.
50, 40, 76. And he's averaging 26 points, 5 rebounds, 3.6 assists. And it was less of I really thought Jaylen Brown should get the start and more I was looking at the pool of guards. Kyrie missed 2 weeks during the season, and I think being available for your team definitely matters. Jaylen Brown has played 26 games. Kyrie's only played 20. And then Harden, it was hard for me because I was factoring those first 2 weeks of the season as well. So I guess the blemishes for both Kyrie and Harden.
Right.
I mean,
off the court stuff.
Off the court just not being available.
Well, that's the point.
I'm looking at Harden's stats now, and he's averaging 24.7 rebounds, 11 assists, and like I said, I think he's the most valuable guy on that Brooklyn team. Just because you're right, I think he has kind of taken a different role, and he's being like the point guard of the team. Kyrie impressively averaging 28 points a game on 50, 40, 90.
Yeah.
So
he's come back. He's been great.
So I mean, each of those guys, I 100% could see why you'd make the argument. Maybe, like you said, it just goes back to like how you factor in. What is your criteria for having these guys start?
Yeah, and I was actually thinking this. Like, I mean, right when that Harden trade happened, we were still a few, maybe a couple months away from thinking about All-Stars. And in my head, I'm like, wow, like it's those three dudes, Kyrie, Harden, and KD, and then Giannis and Embiid. Like, those are the starters. Right?
I mean, if you were really saying who are the best 1, 2, and 3 in the league, or excuse me, in the Eastern Conference, it's Kyrie, Harden, and KD, no doubt.
The reason that I guess it's interesting is like then you factor in how they've been playing, the off the court stuff and all that. But so I can see where you're going with Brown. And the other thing, this is another segue into this topic. I know we said this last year, but it is so frustrating the positional.
It's just stupid. There's no positions in basketball anymore. There is no positions.
Jaylen Brown being able to be a guard when Jimmy Butler is averaging more assists than him, and Jimmy Butler's not a guard, makes zero sense. Like, what is it?
It's just at this point, it's just silly.
It's his size, and like then Ben Simmons, he's a point guard, but then his size.
It's because it's what they're listed at, and to me, if you look at Jimmy Butler and Duncan Robinson, like you could make like it doesn't matter. One of them is a shooting guard, one of them is the small forward. They're both wings. Like I think that honestly, that's what they should do. They should do guards and wings. I guess that's what they are doing.
I just don't understand how Butler is not a 2. Like, I don't get that. I mean, he's run point guard.
And even Jaylen Brown. I mean, Jaylen Brown's listed at guard. That's why I put him as guard, because I didn't want to put Kyrie or Harden.
Exactly. I get that. That's why Brown would have been there. Okay. Whatever.
Anyway, so John.
Get off that. Do you want to move to the West now?
No, why don't we do the reserves first?
I just want to talk about West starters first.
All right,
so I'll ask you this question now. Okay, so the starters. Steph, LeBron, Kawhi, and Jokic. We all knew it was those 4 locked in. Okay, Steph, by the way, averaging 30 points per game right now.
He's out. His numbers are the same as his 2016 season.
Yeah, so it's great.
He also broke my heart 2 nights ago against the Miami Heat.
Oh God,
I don't even want to talk about it.
Okay, but again, Steph, LeBron, Kawhi, Jokic. Those 4 were obvious. The other guard, the interesting guard conversation was Dame versus Luka. So why don't you give me how you decided the Dame versus Luka? I'll just say right now, I had Dame over Luka, and now Luka ended up being the starter.
So unfortunately, John, we are in agreement on this one. Luka, he's basically putting up the same numbers as last year: 29 points, 8 rebounds, and 9 assists, nearly 29, 9, and 9. And his shooting stats are actually a little bit better than last year, but their team record, I mean, we all know the Mavs have been struggling all season long due to injury, due to just chemistry issues, and right now they're 13 and 15. You look at Damian Lillard. Damian Lillard's averaging nearly 30 points, 4 rebounds, 7 assists. I think the thing with that is I'm pretty sure they're on a winning streak. They just won. He's been incredibly clutch. They've won multiple games at the very end because, of course, the clutchest guy in the league, Damian Lillard.
Every time you see a 3-pointer that he makes to win a game, it doesn't even surprise me anymore. It's just ridiculous.
And now, John, I'm shocked. They're 18 and 10.
They're 4th. They're 4th in the West.
They're 4th in the West. If they were in the Eastern Conference, they'd be 1 or 2. So, and honestly, I think I made my lineups like after the Blazers Pelicans game, and that definitely did influence, because I think early on I was saying it's just gonna be Luka, like Luka's the best player, whatever.
He is
the second best guard, whatever.
But I think
Damian, I just have to honestly, Damian right now he should be in the MVP conversation. Easily
he
top
is
5
right now, according to the we've talked about this on the pod a little bit. The MVP tracker on Basketball Reference, he's I think 4th. I checked
which
yesterday.
Makes sense because
he's after like LeBron, Jokic, and Embiid.
Oh, and the main thing that I've forgotten is he's made it that jump into this conversation. He's been playing incredible the last 10 games. Without CJ McCollum.
And Nurkic.
And Nurkic is now out of the lineup as well.
That's what I'm saying here. So
it has to be, to me, it had to be Lillard. I think Luka got the start, but which I think does go to the Blazers have been super hot, like as of the last week and a half. Right. And I think people probably send in their ballots earlier and the voting was earlier. So it makes sense that Luka made it over him.
Yeah, I mean, gun to my head, who do I think is a better player? And just looking at statistics, who is like better and not factoring in winning? Yeah, it's Luka. Luka is.
I still think it's an argument actually, but yeah, go ahead, Luka.
Fine, that's fine. But statistically, Luka's just a mom. I mean, 29, 9 and 9, 2 seasons in a row at age 21.
Yeah.
He's about to turn 22. I think next week. So that's just ridiculous. But Dame, to me, I want to give him that nod because, to me, look at Luka's team and look at Dame's team. Okay, when we're like, oh shoot, like Luke, the Mavericks don't look like he has much help. Kristaps doesn't seem to be the same unicorn that he once was. Richardson isn't the guy that he was in Miami that Dallas thought he would be. They traded away Seth Curry. Who's the next best guy? Is it Trey Burke? Is it Maxi Kleber? You look at that team. Oh man, what is it? You go to Dame, he's been doing this without CJ. Without CJ, who would have easily been made on the All-Star. He would have had an All-Star spot.
Here's their starting lineup. Here's their starting lineup against the Pelicans 2 nights ago. Damian Lillard, Gary Trent Jr., Derek Jones Jr., Robert Covington, and Enes Kanter.
Yeah.
Those are just a bunch of dudes, and they've just won 6 straight games.
So that's my point. The fact that Dame they're led this team to a 6-game winning streak. They're 18-10, fourth in the Western Conference, which the Western Conference is an absolute bloodbath. I just have to say, listen, Luka is great and he's putting up the numbers, but Luka hasn't been able to impact winning as much as Dame has. And I'm not going to say, well, Luka's roster is worse, because look at Dame's roster. So I'm glad we're in agreement on that, Alex. We don't need to talk anymore about that. But that's for the little Dame.
Okay, cool. So why don't we go then to the reserves for the East, John? And I think the way we'll do this, I'll read a name off, and then you can just say yes or no. So I think at the top it should be similar. So James Harden, you already had him in your starting lineup.
Harden is there.
But then you also have Jaylen Brown, right?
And I also have Jaylen Brown on my bench.
Next guy, Chris Middleton. He's averaging 20 points, 6 rebounds, 6 assists on 50, 40, 90. He's in.
Okay,
he's not in. You don't have Chris Middleton.
I actually goofed. I missed Middleton.
Oh,
all right, good.
No, good.
So who else did you have here? Because let's work through this.
All right, I had Bam next.
Okay, I had Brown, Tatum, Bam. Right? You had Brown, Tatum, and Bam.
I don't have Tatum.
Okay, so I have Tatum over Middleton.
Well, for me, Tatum. The argument against Tatum was, and I did the same.
But no, you can't tell me this. You have to tell me why you have Middleton over Tatum. Because I couldn't put Middleton in there for Tatum.
Here's why. Middleton, to me, Tatum's talent isn't, that much better than him. And the Bucks, at the time that I made this, the Bucks were still pretty much top of the East. And the Bucks still are top 3. The Celtics, I know they're only a few games behind the Bucks, since the Bucks have lost 5 straight games. But the Celtics are 500. The Celtics have, in the last 10 games, are 4-6. So they've really been falling apart.
Well, we want to talk about last 5 games. Bucks have just dropped 5 straight.
They're 5-5. So whatever, yeah, same thing. But
you can't. To me,
you had 5 straight wins, 5 straight losses, or whatever. But my point is, the Bucks are a better team, and to me, Middleton is the second best guy on that team. I was putting 2 Bucks. I couldn't justify putting 2 Celtics. The same reason I couldn't justify putting 2 Miami Heat players, which is why I poor Jimmy Butler. I didn't put him on my lineup.
Okay, no, and we're gonna get to that because that's another thing that I disagree on. Okay, so let me respond. Celtics versus Bucks right now, and the voting obviously has concluded a couple of days ago. But right now, Bucks are 16-13. The Celtics are 14-14. Okay, both teams have had injuries. Drew Holiday's been out. Marcus Smart has been out. Tatum had COVID. Whatever. They're both are dealing with similar factors on that end. Okay, but to tell me that the Celtics right now have 1 more loss than the Bucks do. Okay, in their next 3 games, if the Celtics go 2-1, they will have the same. I'm sorry, that's wrong. If the Celtics had 2 more wins and 1 less loss, so I'm saying that right now you're telling me they're a game and a half behind. That can't be the reason you are, because the truth is we know Brown has been excellent this year and he's closed the gap on who the number 1 guy is on that team, but it's still Tatum. Okay, Tatum's the guy on that team. He's the guy on the Celtics, on the Eastern Conference. A team that made it to the Eastern Conference Finals last year, a team that's been a good team that doesn't have the best roster, I think. So to me, I'm like, okay, the best player on the Celtics, yes, I'm giving him the nod. Am I giving the second best guy in the Bucks the nod? No, I'm not gonna do that.
Yes.
What would Tatum do if he was on that team with the Bucks? He would
That's
sit
not
in the
how we
corner
evaluate things.
and he would make the same
you gotta
plays
look at
with
it.
Giannis.
Look at
on
the standings. Sixers, top of the East. They get 2 guys. Nets, they should get 2, but they get a third because of how good the third guy is.
Right.
The Bucks, They get 2 guys, and
No,
then you moving forward, looking at towards the bottom. The rest is like
Alex,
maybe one
this
guy.
This is what I'll say. It's not the East of old, okay? This is not the Atlanta Hawks with 60 wins, and we're gonna give them Jeff Teague,
okay, well, that was
Kyle
injuries.
Korver.
That's a joke.
Jeff Teague, Kyle Korver, Paul Millsap, and Al Horford. No, I'm sorry. The East is more stacked this year, and there's just more guys you gotta get in. I'm putting Tatum in over Middleton.
You gotta respect Middleton, and also here's another thing. Middleton has played 5 more games than Tatum. Tatum missing 2 weeks.
Oh, sorry, he had COVID. He's still a star.
It's not his
And
fault.
we're gonna get to that.
It's not Jimmy Butler's fault that he had to miss all the time too.
And
All
we're
right, so
talk about
let's move.
Butler.
So we have Bam. We both have Bam.
Okay, so we both have Brown and Bam and Harden on the bench right now. One thing I wanted to throw out there is, let's say, like, we're gonna see what happens. We're gonna see if Tatum or Middleton makes it, and it might not be either or. They might both make it, but
I think they'll both make it.
All right, so going down, next guy I had Kyrie on my bench, of course, but he ended up being started, so we put Harden in there instead.
I had
have
Kyrie as
LaVine.
well. I'll agree with Kyrie. You have Zach LaVine?
Zach LaVine.
I have Zach LaVine too. Why don't you give me your argument
All
for
right, so
Zach
Zach
LaVine
LaVine, listen.
being on a 12 and 15 team?
12 and 15 team, but again, the East right now, they're in the 9th spot in the East. Above them, the 13 and 15 Hornets, the 14 and 16 Knicks, the 14 and 15 Raptors, and the 14 and 14 Celtics. So, listen, we're splitting hairs here. They're a game and a half, out of where the Celtics are. So, forget winning, whatever. Listen, who is really, like, on that team, like, putting in the work? He's averaging 28. He's the star of that team, and he's a game and a half behind the Celtics, who we're going to give Brown and Tatum the nod. So to me, when we talk about the winning, he's a good stats, bad team guy. Listen, 12 and 15 is good for the playing spot right now.
He's also been efficient.
If they
His
go
efficiency's good.
Yeah, and if they go on a few game winning streak, they're gonna be in like the 6 or 5 spot. So let's forget about this. He's averaging 28, like 5 and 5. It's 5 and 5 roughly, right? But 28 points per game. Dunk, two-time dunk. Oh no, I'm sorry, two-time. No,
Yeah.
he won. Oh, did he?
No, he won two-time dunk
Two-time dunk champ. Okay, so like this is the All-Star
be an
game.
All-Star, yeah.
He's averaging 28 points per game. I'm putting him on the All-Star game. I want to see some awesome dunks. That's it. It's not. I don't think it's too.
I
crazy
completely
of an
agree.
argument.
I completely agree, John, and definitely I think that we're clearly seeing as we talk through these lineups. The challenge this year was how much can you factor in winning when you've only played really like a third of the season. You typically, when we get to the All-Star break, you've played past halfway. You're past halfway, and then the other thing is how many guys have been out of the lineup due to COVID, and how do you factor that in? So it's been, of course. I mean, this has been one of the weirdest NBA seasons ever. Probably one or two after last year. Yeah. But, so that's why it's been very weird. And I will be interested to see who actually does make it, because there's going to be snubs. There's going to be a lot of snubs. So, okay, we agree on Zach LaVine. Next up, so we have Kyrie. We also have Kyrie. My last 2 guys are Ben Simmons and Domantas Sabonis. But why don't you give me your Jimmy Butler argument?
Oh, okay. So, yeah, I was alluding to this. I am having Jimmy Butler in the All-Star game. Yeah. And again, it's very simple.
Ridiculous.
It's very simple. He's played a couple of days ago, Alex. I'm looking at your little lineup that you had. A couple of days ago, it was that he had played 16 games.
He's played 16 games.
Total? Okay.
He's played 17.
Again last night. So 17 games, okay? So he's played 17 games, which most teams have played around, 25 to 20.
Well, let me read you the other guys. 20. These are just going down my All-Star list. 24, 26, 27, 23, 19, 24, 28, 26, okay. 25. So most of these guys are in the mid-20s.
But let's think about this. Usually when we vote for All-Stars, we're about halfway through the season. And then All-Star happens about after the halfway point, okay? And we're talking right now about All-Stars 25 games in. So to me, when we're looking at the entirety of the 2021 season, and you ask me, in 10 years from now, if you ask me, who are the All-Stars that year? Yes, Jimmy missed with the COVID. He missed. It was ridiculous. He missed he was in quarantine for longer. It was longer. It felt like it was longer than 14 days. Okay, ridiculous. Jimmy Butler, is he an All-Star? It's a yes or no question. Is he an All-Star? Yes, he is. Am I gonna try and be like, oh well, Domantas Sabonis is averaging 21 and 11, and he's played more games than Jimmy? I don't care if he's played more games than Jimmy.
Well,
who's a better player? It's Jimmy Butler. Look what Jimmy did in the finals. He belongs there. He belongs there with LeBron. He belongs there with Kawhi and Giannis and Luka and Dame and Jokic and all the great players in this league. Jimmy Butler needs to be there. And obviously, I'm a Heat fan. I'm not gonna, pretend like I'm not biased here. But let's stop. It's the All-Star game. Jimmy Butler needs to be in there.
I looked at it, and I can't justify. It's not that Sabonis has played a little more. Sabonis has actually played 13 more games. Jimmy is by far out of all.
Alex,
listen,
we're in so early of the season.
I understand, but guess what? Guess another factor you have to factor in. The Heat are not good. We're 5 games below 500, and we do not deserve having 2 All-Stars. We just don't. At the end of the day, and so I'm putting in Bam, and I'm not. It breaks my heart. I'm not putting in Jimmy. Of course, Jimmy's one of the top 12 players in the East. There's not a doubt.
I'll say this.
I would argue he's top 5.
Let me say this: coaches vote for reserves, right? They know on any given night that they're playing the Heat. They know what Jimmy can do. So I'm hoping the coaches will side with me here and just know and respect Jimmy, who he is, who he has been, and put him in the All-Star game. And you know what? Sorry, Domantas Sabonis. I'm snubbing.
Yeah, you are snubbing him. They're also the 4 seed in the East. He's putting up 21.5 points, 11 rebounds, almost 6 assists. He's been incredibly impressive. And now they traded Oladipo. Karis LeVert hasn't come back. They've had a tough stretch of games, but he's still doing what he's doing, and he's, like I said, he's played 29 games. He deserves the starring nod. Excuse me, starring nod, the All-Star nod.
I guess I'm okay with that. You know, if that's what happens, he has been good. Whatever.
I mean, they're top. The Pacers are top 4 in the East.
This is just how
you don't want to factor the standings at all. Okay, because of COVID, but they're top 4 in the East. One of their players should be on, and he's clearly the best player on that team.
All right, I didn't have a Pacer, so that's fine. I guess the guy that I had over him, so we can a little segue in there. Who I'm surprised, Alex, you don't, because I think these guys are very similar, okay? Julius Randle. So let me just read Sabonis' numbers. You had Sabonis in there. 21.5 points, 11.6 rebounds, 5.7 assists, okay? So about 21, 11, and 5-6 assists. Okay, now we go to Randle. 23 points, 10.9 rebounds, so 11 rebounds, and 5.5 assists. Their PER is the same, 20.75. They're both the lefty, power forwards on their middle of the playoff tiers in the Eastern Conference. I think these guys are kind of neck and neck, and I want to see Julius Randle and New York Knicks in there. He's averaged more points. I think it's more surprising and impressive what he's done with a worse roster on the New York Knicks. The Pacers we knew coming in, Alex, they were one of the teams we actually really liked. We're like, wow, they're going to have Brogdon and Oladipo's going to be back.
And they started off number 2 in the East until like I said, that trade happened.
They started off 5-0 or something like that.
Well, my point is they started off and they were right up there with the Sixers, and then the trade happened. LeVert is hurt,
And TJ Warren missed time, but just all those guys, we were like, wow, we really Miles Turner is I'm the defensive player of the year. I like that team. I like the Knicks, Alex. What do we think about the Knicks coming in? What do we think? We thought they were gonna be one of the worst teams in the league.
I didn't totally not believe in Tibbs' ability. I wouldn't.
Stop.
But here's the thing. I don't think they're gonna make the playoffs. I don't think they're gonna make the playoffs.
Okay, I think they at least make a play.
I mean, they're 14
because
and
they
16.
compete on a nightly basis. They play as a team, and they have a guy like Julius Randle who's improved a lot. And you know what he's been doing? He's been impacting winning. Okay, because that's a team that we all thought was one of the worst teams in the league. And you're right, Tibbs looking at.
I was gonna say.
Tom
you look at
Thibodeau,
last year's very similar roster. Unless you wanted to say Emmanuel Quickly is the reason.
Well, that's my point. Is
Randle was on that team last year.
Randle has made the jump. He's a much better player this year, and I want to give him the respect to do that. But we'll see again. It might not be it's similar to the Tatum Middleton thing. It might not be one or the other. It might be both of them. So here we could see Randle and Sabonis making it. But then that's surprising because then it's then do Tatum and Middleton make it? Well, we'll see what happens. But
the last guy to make an argument for now is Ben Simmons. Do you have Ben Simmons in your lineup?
So I didn't. I guess here you could say I had Butler over Simmons.
Yeah, and that's why it's ridiculous. The best team in the East, John, you only gave one player. You only gave Joel Embiid, and you give the Miami Heat, the 11th best team, 2. Okay?
Hey, I'm a Heat fan.
Bro.
This is my list.
Ben Simmons is by far it's not even. I know some people are putting Tobias in there which bugs me because it's you just look at, if you're looking purely at points, you're like, oh, okay, Tobias Harris averages the second most points on that team. He's the second best player. No, Ben Simmons is the second best player on that team. He's probably the most disrespected, most underrated guy in the league, I think. 15, 8, and 8. You know what you're getting every night. And people want to hate on him because he can't do one thing, which is shoot the basketball. Everything else, he does at an A level, okay? The only other thing I can say is that he needs to be more aggressive. And we saw when Embiid was out of the lineup, he went into the paint, he posted up, he spent all night, busting people's butts, getting down low. And guess what? He ended up with 42 points, okay? So I think, and I've been saying this, honestly, probably since our days when we were back in the WZBC studio during our freshman year, is that if you built a team around him similar to Giannis, I think he puts up similar numbers. And maybe you could argue Giannis is a little bit bigger, a little bit stronger, whatever. But to me, it's the same idea. I don't think Giannis is a better passer. I don't think Giannis is a better driver necessarily. He's just bigger. I think Ben Simmons has that same skill set, and we saw this, 2018, where Embiid's out of the lineup for those last 2 weeks, and the Sixers finished with a huge winning streak, ended up getting to the 3 seed, and Simmons was going off during that time. That was his rookie season. Okay. So I think that Simmons, because of what he does, he's a Swiss Army knife, and he's probably top 2 defender in the league, top 3. He might win Defensive Player of the Year, probably Rudy Gobert is the other guy that'll get looked at. But I think Ben Simmons is 100% an All-Star this year.
All right. So you're preaching the choir with the Simmons hype.
Oh, really?
Listen.
Am I?
Yeah. Let me talk about this. So I'll be honest. It is a little inconsistent. I've been rah Sixers all year. They've been the team that I've been saying from preseason. I was like, that's the team that's going to make it to the finals. They're going to be the best team equipped to stop LeBron and Anthony Davis. And here I am now saying, yes, that number 1 team in the Eastern Conference, I only gave Embiid the All-Star spot. So I guess the problem I have here is, and if we were saying just best guys, don't factor in winning or not winning, but don't factor in how this guy has in fact impacted his team or whatever. Randall is not as good of a player as Ben Simmons. We agree there. A Ben Simmons led team is better than a Julius Randle led team. So here, I could fine if you want to throw Simmons in there.
Well, that was your
Randall,
argument for Jimmy. You said Jimmy should be in because he's better.
I know, but Ben Simmons is not Jimmy. And my thing there is
oh my God.
I guess if I was seeing Simmons, I'll say this.
So it's like at a certain point, you just draw a line. You say, if you're this good, you make it because of how good you are. And below that, it's only something else.
No. If Simmons, let's say a Beal for Simmons trade happened, or a Simmons for Harden trade happened, and Simmons was running his own team in Houston, running his own team in DC, okay? If we saw that, and we know what he's capable of, dropping 42 like he did against the Jazz the other night, okay? If we saw that, then that Simmons, yes. The problem is, he's a guy averaging 15, not even. After his 42-point game, it went up to 15, but it was 14, 8, and 8 a couple days ago.
Who cares about stats, bro? We know what he brings to the table.
Well, I mean, that's
why you want to sleep on defense.
Then
if you just want everyone to score,
me.
Why don't you go look at the top scorers in the NBA and throw them on the lineup? Guess who's making it then? Jordan Clarkson, Trae Young's in there. We got some bums, okay?
Okay, so fine.
Not that Trae Young's a total bum, but
I'll say this. Fine. I'll take to be more consistent with my theme. I'll take Randall out. I'm throwing Simmons in there. Congratulations, you got me to change my mind.
You should take out Jimmy Butler, bro.
I'm not. Jimmy's an all-star.
I love
You're
Jimmy.
right. Ben Simmons is an all-star. I guess I just didn't love the fact that he is not at his full potential of how good he can individually be as a player because he's playing on that team that isn't the best fit. It's still a good fit, and the problem is he's not aggressive when he's there with Embiid. And Barkley was talking about this on the Bill Simmons pod. He has nights where he drops 42 and Embiid's out. Embiid comes back and you're like, what? And they played the Lakers this year, and we see a play where he drives by LeBron James, a play where he drives by Anthony Davis, and then he's got Caruso on him. He starts backing Caruso down and just passes it back to the top of the key. It's what are you doing? So there's something, there's a screw loose there, and the disconnect and how good he really is and how good he actually believes he is. So it's I need to see more, and maybe that's I love Randall doing what he's been doing, so I had Randall in that last spot over Simmons.
I'm not going to totally, crap on him for that. Of course, I would want him to be more aggressive, but they're winning, so, getting credit. And like I said, obviously the number 1 guy is Embiid. The next guy that's averaging the most points is Tobias Harris, and he's 50, 40, 90 right now. So I think, honestly, Ben Simmons in the role of more facilitator, defense, end of the game, get a good rebound, push it up the floor, maybe layup. He's not the guy who's going to need to be dropping 40 every night or even 25 necessarily, which I think we will see him do that at some point. He's going to put up a LeBron-esque stat line at some point in his career, or Giannis. Anyway, John,
let's go to the
West.
That's
the East.
Yeah?
Let's move over to the West.
So right off the first
why don't we start off and you read me some of your guys?
So the first 6 we had, again, the starters, we had Dame or Luka in that spot. And so the next man up is going to be Dame. Dame's number 6 there.
Or Luka.
Next, I also threw in, I think these are the non-negotiable ones. I think the West is a little more like that, where there's just guys you have to have. I have Luka there. Again, Dame on the bench. Anthony Davis on the bench, who we're going to talk about because he's going to be injured. He's out for the next 4 weeks.
Davis got my last spot. I was actually on the fence with him.
Oh, wow. Okay, so this is, again, I'm just picking all-stars. I
picked him. So
he hasn't had as good of a season to his standard, but he's still Anthony Davis.
I don't have a problem with that.
Dame, Anthony Davis, and then the 2 guys I was still they have to be locks is Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert.
Okay, no disagreement there. I mean, what the Jazz is doing, they're 20.
Yeah.
Were they 24-5?
Yeah.
They've won 19 of the last 20.
So and this is where
Wait, for all you bettors out there, I think like 19 out of the last 20 games they've
covered the
they've
spread.
covered the spread.
They are 19
I bet
and
as soon as
1.
I saw that stat, I put $25 on them -7 against the Clippers, and they blew the Clippers out.
Oh my god.
It's free money.
They're unreal. So yeah, in the last 20 games, they've won 19. They're 19-1 in their last 20 games. Unreal. And like you said, Alex, in those 19 games that they won, they also beat Vegas and they won against the spread. So they've been incredible. And for that reason, like, yes, I know you're saying, the Sixers top of the East. Okay, also, you're not going to give them 2 players. Sixers are 19-10. Damian Lillard and the Blazers are 18-10. So like they're the number 1 team in the league. I'm sorry, in the East. But to me, the Jazz, that's like that's the number 1 team in the West.
And I agree. So we're in agreement now. We have Donovan Mitchell, Rudy Gobert, Luka Doncic, and Anthony Davis on our benches.
No, Damian Lillard.
Well,
Luka's starting.
Yeah, but we started Dame. So whatever.
Okay.
We're talking about our lineups,
Okay.
And so there's 3 spots left, John. Who do you have in those 3 spots?
Okay.
Now?
Paul George.
Okay, I agree as well.
I think he's next up for like, if I feel like 99% on the first 4 guys, Mitchell, Gobert, Davis, and Dame or Luka, I think PG-13's he's not 99, but he's like maybe 90.
Yeah, and he has been
have come back.
Of course, the Clippers have come back. They've been impressive.
Right.
I mean, he's missed a good amount of games due to injury, and I actually don't know what he's out for right now, but he's been out. But I think the most just staggering stat to me that I'm still shocked by, he's shooting 47% on 3, nearly 48% from the arc. 50,
that's pretty
far. 50, 48, 90, which is
long way.
We talked
from
about
where he was when he clanked it off the side of the
we've been talking
backboard.
about that backboard shot.
Right.
But so now, all right, so we pretty much agree on everyone there.
Yeah.
There's 2 spots left in the Western
Plus
Conference.
the
Sean.
injury replacement for Davis. So there's really
Okay,
3 guys.
let's talk about your first 2, and then we'll get into like who.
So I'll
pick over
say
Davis.
this. Okay, I'll give you like all mine at once. And well, I'm gonna have to because for my 11th spot, it's either it's a Phoenix Sun.
Okay.
I don't know which one, and then 12 is Zion. So we'll talk about the Suns first. So because I had either one of those guys, Chris Paul or Booker, well now I'm like they're gonna get a replacement for Davis. I'll throw in both of them. So I guess I'm saying Chris Paul, Devin Booker, and Zion. Who did I miss there, Alex? In your opinion?
You're picking Booker over Paul.
So
I mean, I'll make the argument for Paul.
If I really like when I wrote my roster out, I looked at the numbers. I was trying to like figure out who's been more of a winner, who's the best player on the team, like what. And gun to my head, I think I just give it to Booker. And Booker was salty last year when he like barely made it as an injury replacement guy, and now I'm like, I don't know if that's good for their team. If Chris Paul, however only a 35-year-old Chris Paul
funny.
is gonna make it over young Devin Booker, who knows who knows and thinks he's the number 1 guy on that team. Whatever, I'm sure he appreciates everything Chris Paul has done as a leader, as the point guard, running the offense, controlling the pace, taking that team from a bottom tier team that almost made it to the playoffs last year, all the way now to a team at the top of the Western Conference. Booker knows what CP has done for that team, but I still think it's the All-Star game. I love Chris Paul. Like I'm
there you go. It's the All-Star game, bro. Throw Chris Paul in there, man.
But I mean, who's
that's his
really,
DNA. Top 35 player ever.
But it's like it's Twilight. He's not like 20 points per game, 10 assists. Chris Paul.
I mean, he's 17 and 8. He's 17 and 8. That's pretty damn impressive. So that's why I'm
like, listen. Booker is a guy who could average 30. Like if he was, I really do feel like if he was in Beal's position on the Wizards, he could average maybe not 33, but 30, 31. I think he's that guy, and I think he's on a better team, and that's the sacrifice he's made. So he's only averaging 24, whatever. I just think, gun to my head, he's the better guy on that team. I mean, better guy, just younger, in his prime, whatever. CP has been more valuable, 100%.
Yes, and that's
All-Star. I guess I'm just gonna go with Booker.
No, so I don't. That's the thing. If we want to reduce everything down to points, then like Tobias Harris should make it over Ben Simmons, which I completely disagree with.
It's not down to points. That's not what I'm saying.
And Chris Paul has been the most valuable player. He has had more of an impact on winning, which I think.
It just feels weird to put him over Booker to me.
I don't think it is. I think I watched, and you know what my final straw was, because of course I kind of was similar to you, toss up between those 2 guys, and then I watched them play the Nets this weekend, in which they actually choked at the very end. They were up to 124 to 121. Nets ended up winning 128 to 124, but Chris Paul was clearly the better player on that team. He was 12 for 20. Booker was 9 for 20, so a little bit worse. But Booker did not score any points in the fourth quarter and was 0 for 4 from 3-point range.
Okay, so
that and whatever.
You want to
neck and neck.
You want to
I
pull
put
up
Paul
games?
over.
I'll give you another game. Devin Booker, 36 points against the best team in the East, the 76ers. Put up 36 points, and they won that game. And yes, Chris Paul, different kind of value. He's not putting up 36 points, 5 rebounds, 4 assists. He's putting up 18 points with 10 assists and with 8 rebounds. And he's doing more on the defensive end with, calling the plays up, all that stuff, okay? We know that Chris Paul has that value as a guy. But they're still also good because of what Booker's been. Like, Booker needs Paul and Paul needs Booker. So to me, it's a toss-up.
You're right.
I think I'm really just going to give them both the spot.
Okay,
because
well,
AD's going to be out.
Well, you're right. I think if you're asking me who I'm putting in after Anthony Davis, it's going to be Devin Booker, so they will ultimately both make it. However, I think that in KOC, there was in an article when he was writing about his All-Stars, I really like the point that he made, which was in the NBA right now, there's an abundance of scoring. The teams are scoring more, players are scoring more. On a night-to-night basis, I mean, we see guys who, like Kelly Oubre, drop 40,
Yeah.
Average players in the NBA, or below average, you could argue, and they're dropping 40. So there's an abundance of scoring, and I think, similar to maybe the Ben Simmons, the reason I put Ben Simmons in, is I think that I still want to give credit to guys who are impacting the game on different levels. Also, I mean, shout out last night, Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo, neither of their shots were falling a lot. I don't think either of them scored.
They both had triple-doubles.
They both have triple-doubles, but neither of them were scored over 15 points. So it's like, that's why I love Jimmy so much. When he's not making shots, he's still going to have an impact on the game. And to me, that's the ultimate, those are the guys who can really get you wins. Okay. So, which is why I'm giving Chris Paul the nod. Of course, I will also inject Devin Booker into the lineup, but there's still one spot left, John. Have you said your last guy? Oh, you said Zion?
So wait, are you telling me that you're going to have Devin Booker be...
He will be the injury. If Davis doesn't play,
okay.
It'll be...
So then the last one. Perfect. I know who you had here. I had Zion Williamson.
Disrespectful,
bro. It's the All-Star game.
Bro.
Go ahead. Tell our listeners.
Put some respect on DeMar DeRozan's name, bro. He's sick of the slander, man. He got shipped out of Toronto. And guess what? Since then, he's been basically giving you 25-5 since he got there. And people don't like him because guess what? He plays for the Spurs. They're not a flashy organization. He's not flashy. They've struggled the past few seasons. Well, guess what? Right now, they're in the playoff picture. They're 16-11. Zion Williamson, what have you done? Okay, 25 points. Bro. I like that. Only 7 rebounds. Charles Barkley was giving him some flack. He's like, bro, you need to be rebounding when you're that big. And guess what else, Zion? 12-16. The Pelicans aren't good. I'm sorry. The Pelicans are not a good basketball team. They don't deserve an All-Star. You're gonna give me the argument, oh well, Zion, he's flashy, he's a fun player. I want to see the dunks on this and that. We're gonna see plenty of Zion, okay? Let's let DeMar DeRozan. Dude. DeMar DeRozan is the best guy on his team. I don't know if we probably would say that about Zion, but Zion's playing with a much better roster. And guess what? DeMar DeRozan is far ahead of him in the standings. You basically flip their wins and losses.
Zion averaging 25 points per game. 61.8% from the field, okay? 37% from 3.
Because he's fat, bro.
Yes, 6.8 rebounds. Should get that number up as a power forward. 3.1 assists, 1 steal, and about 1 block, 0.7 block. Okay, so listen. It just goes back to it's the All-Star game. Zion Williamson is averaging 25 points per game, Alex. Don't overthink this. That's enough. That's enough to get me in.
The Spurs are better, and DeMar DeRozan deserves some credit. I want to credit.
I want to go to the point about the winning.
7 assists a game too. Win, yeah. We're talking about winning.
No, yeah. I want to go to the point of winning. Okay, if Zion is on the Spurs, if you switch those two guys, what is that team?
No.
What is that team?
No, okay? Bro.
No, just stop. I don't even need to know anything about that team. You know what the Spurs are, Alex?
Can you tell me who's on that team?
If the Spurs organization and front office could become an All-Star, then they deserve it, okay? Because that's who deserves the credit for this. Pop and the system and just the years that they've been good and
the players guys. The players play basketball.
Yes, and that's what you're right. But I'm saying. You just to give the Spurs a nod, let's throw one of the Spurs. No, it's a collective team thing.
It's not just Spurs. It's a team thing. Who's on that team?
Okay, but let's go.
I can't even take Trey Lyles.
Pelicans. Okay, yes, New Orleans Pelicans are 12-6. So right now they are.
And they have better.
They're 4.5 games behind the Spurs. So to me, I'm like, okay, 4.5 games versus just how much better of a player Zion is and how much better of an all-star he will be and more fun it'll make the game, whatever. Zion, that team, that roster, it's all messy. Like Adams is in there in the paint.
Who expected?
So Zion can't
did
be
we
in the
expect?
paint. Ingram has the ball, then Zion has the ball. Eric Bledsoe's in there with Lonzo. It's just a weird team. A bunch of guys who are like talented and have different niches, but doesn't really fit when you put them all together.
Okay, but
so I'm
who do
sorry.
we expect
I'm
to be
not gonna
better?
hold that against
I think
Zion.
we both expected
Zion
the
is
Pelicans
great.
to be better. Neither of us expected the Spurs to be a better team than the
That's a good
Pelicans.
point.
And guess what? It's not just about who's winning. Like it's not just the Spurs and that they're winning. I want to give credit to DeMar DeRozan. He's been in the West for a few years. He's very slept on. He's very underappreciated, and he's up there for me with underrated guys with Ben Simmons and Chris Middleton. He's underrated.
So I got a question. So is this you saying if I'm deciding DeMar DeRozan's in there, tell me right now, do you really think DeRozan makes it over Zion?
No, because I don't have faith in people who make these
good.
lists.
I was gonna say if
Because
not,
everyone's like, oh, Zion Williamson, 25 points. Oh, he makes big dunks. Oh,
yeah.
And then they're gonna put
Zion,
him in.
Zion, dunk,
Okay,
all-star.
How about you have a more
Simple.
sophisticated look at the game of basketball and appreciate DeMar DeRozan and his old school style
I
of play?
appreciate what he does. There's 12 spots, Alex. The West is loaded. The West is absolutely stacked right now. Like, there's guys on every team. Like, how is Shea Gilgeous-Alexander in the conversation? How about
he's not really.
D'Angelo Russell and Karl Anthony Towns are 2 All-Stars on the worst team in the
They're not
West. On the world.
All-Stars.
They've been All-Stars
they've been
before.
All-Stars, yeah.
I'm just saying, like, the West, and like, I'm not saying no one should have even come close to looking at Cat or at D'Angelo Russell. But my point is, like, it's stacked. It's tough. It's difficult. Zion is one of those guys who the next few years, for the next
He's gonna
10
probably
years
make
of his
it every
career,
year
He's
for the rest.
a perennial all-star. And, like, I'm not
If
gonna...
he can lose.
I'm not
some
gonna
weight,
pretend
though.
like he's not because the Spurs have been better than we expected and they're 5 games above 500. Like, I'm not gonna do that. We're 27 games in for that team. I'm not giving him a nod over Zion. So that concludes it. Those are our rosters. Do you want to read your list all the way down?
Okay, here are my starters. In the East, we got, let's do both. Beal, Jaylen Brown, Kevin Durant, Giannis Antetokounmpo, Joel Embiid, Harden, Middleton, Bam, Ben Simmons, Zach LaVine, Kyrie Irving, Sabonis.
I think you missed a syllable in Antetokounmpo.
Shut up. Go to the West. We got Curry, Lillard in the backcourt, LeBron, Kawhi, and Jokic. Jokic having an incredible season. Of course, the Jazz players, Donovan Mitchell, Rudy Gobert, Luka, Paul George, Chris Paul, DeMar DeRozan, and Anthony Davis. But I'm going to put Devin Booker into that spot for Davis.
I'm glad we're
and I'm
agreeing with that.
snubbing Zion, SGA, De'Aaron Fox, John Morant, and Mike Conley. Those are the snubs.
One more thing. Christian Wood, if he had not gotten hurt...
He wouldn't have gotten it. I probably would have put him in my lineup.
I don't know.
I
didn't. Luckily, I didn't have to think about it.
Yeah.
But man, I just wanted to give him a little shout out because he's too
Yeah.
good for me to not have. To
I agree.
him in
He's
there.
been very impressive.
Okay.
Most
So, yeah.
improved player if he can get healthy.
Western
again.
Conference. If these are my starters: Steph, Dame in the backcourt, LeBron, Kawhi, Jokic. Instead, it ended up being Luka in the starting lineup. So Dame's on my bench now. So it's Dame, AD, Mitchell, Gobert, PG-13, and then I gave Booker the nod over CP, and then Zion at my last spot, and then I'm throwing Chris Paul in there, who's doing having similar numbers as he did in Oklahoma City this year with a much better team, leading them to a top 5 seed right now in the West. In the East, I had Harden and Beal in the backcourt, KD, Giannis, and Embiid. Of course, Harden ended up getting switched out of that lineup for Kyrie, so Harden's on my bench. I got Jaylen Brown, I got Jason Tatum, I got Bam Adebayo, Zach LaVine, Jimmy Butler, and Alex convinced me to put in Ben Simmons over Julius Randle to be a little more consistent with my theme of just saying,
Because you're
listen,
inconsistent and
Simmons is the guy.
disrespectful.
But again, like I said, I mean, it's just more difficult for me to have. I mean, listen, Simmons is a better player than Randle, and Simmons would probably be a stud if he was on the Knicks right now. So I'm gonna put
We're
Simmons.
clearly
there.
biased. I
You
mean, if
convinced
I
me.
like Tatum better, maybe I would say, well, he should be in over any of those other guys.
Yeah,
But
I
guess
mean,
what?
I didn't have Middleton.
We have our biases.
I
but
snubbed Middleton. I snubbed Sabonis.
I mean, I have bias, but guess what? I didn't even put Jimmy in. So how biased am I in the end? Well, anyway, that'll conclude today's episode. We've been slacking a little bit again. We always say this, but we're gonna continue trying for, if not on Mondays and on Fridays, it'll be Wednesdays and
We're
Mondays.
saying every other Monday, Wednesday,
So
Fridays.
we're gonna figure it out, but hopefully, I mean, we have been a little bit more consistent than we have in the past, but we're keeping it coming, keeping the content coming. It's been fun. Thanks for listening, everyone. Have a good one. Go Heat.
Go Heat.